Hey, this is Dennis, and welcome to another episode of the Grounded Reason podcast. Today, we were going to talk about the new Roku devices that recently came out, or that they recently announced. They're actually not coming out to the beginning of October. Now, if you didn't listen to the midweek episode, the last one that we just had, you're probably saying, hey, wait a minute, you said last episode we'll be talking about some kind of hidden fees that the cable companies all throw on us. And yes, I did say that 2 weeks ago, but this week I said that we were going to push that episode till next Monday because of the new Roku announcement, which kind of threw a little bit of a wrench into my weekend plans. Which I'll get into. We did my wife and I went down to Florida and checked out the Universal Studios Halloween Horror Night. So you might want to skip ahead a little bit. I put the timing in the show notes if you plan on going there this year, because I do talk a little bit about it for maybe, the first 5 to 10 minutes. So check the show notes if you want to skip ahead. I didn't really get into anything too scary, so there's no reason to be afraid. Unless you find the proposition of 5 new Roku devices scary, then this episode is terrifying. We also had just recently got a voicemail box, so if you want to call in with a question or comment, you can do that now. And the number is really easy to remember because it's 650-TALK-GRP. GRP like Grounded Reason Podcast. That's 650-TALK-GRP. You can call, you leave a message. Make sure to leave your name, because if we use your question on air, we can give you credit for it. And you get to hear your voice on the podcast, so that's pretty cool too. If you don't like to use the phone, you can always email us at podcast@groundedreason.com, or you could tweet us at Grounded Reason, or you could leave a message on the Facebook page. We would also really appreciate it if you do listen to the show, and you have to go in every week and find it, or go to the website and see when a new episode is released. There's a much easier way to handle that. Just go into, iTunes or Stitcher or whatever podcast app you use and subscribe to the podcast. Because what that does is it raises our show's visibility in the rankings and helps other people find it. And then, more people listen to the show, and the more people that listen, the better chances that we'll be doing this forever. So if you do that, we would really appreciate it. So enough babbling. Let's get on with the show. Last weekend, my wife was like, "Hey, it was just a vacation without the kids. We actually had a babysitter for the weekend, and my wife and I decided that we were going to go to Food and Wine in Epcot down in Florida, and we were with another couple, some friends of ours, and my friend Todd's a big horror fan, and we went to the Universal Studios Horror Night."
Oh, love it.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
I'll maybe scare you guys with that a little bit during this episode. But so my poor wife, though, she's like, yep, you're going to go and you can bring your computer, but you can only check email. I don't want you writing or anything else while we're down there.
In fairness to Allison, you and I have both, and I'll put it on me too, been checking stats and looking at stuff about, our podcast, which we love, and our fans, all 9 of you
listeners,
right? Listeners,
yeah, maybe we probably have 9.
We
I think we have 11.
We have 11.
If you go by reviews, we have 11 fans.
I'm gonna count the 11 folks that reviewed us as fans.
Yeah, because I would consider those fans. They put the effort in.
They gave us 5 stars review.
Right.
I'm very proud of those 11.
I am too.
We're proud of the rest of you too, by the way.
Yeah.
But that being said, right, you check that a lot. So Allison had a point. That was mine.
No, she totally had a point. And I agree because I do. I work a job a regular, I work in IT.
Job.
Yes. I work in IT, and that's 40 to 50 hours a week. And then I have the blog, which I have to write at least once a week for. And then, we do the podcast like twice a week.
Yep.
So
same here. So I don't have a blog.
Well, yeah. So she's like
more or less the same.
So she's like, hey, okay, this weekend's our weekend. And then Roku decides to announce that they are completely revamping all the devices and renaming them. And that happened. That news, I caught last week, like after I agreed to say, okay, fine, not working this weekend. Yeah. So I couldn't.
Well, and I would honestly.
So Dennis, I got home and I wrote like the wind.
That's because, you're a diligent fella. But I would honestly side with you if I didn't love my Roku so much.
Oh, I know. Well, that's the thing is like I'm at like Universal Studios Horror Night, and they actually had a
thinking about Roku.
They have a I love American Horror Story.
Oh yeah, great show.
And they actually had American Horror Story where you went through.
No way. Which season was it?
Well, they went through Murder House the first season.
Yeah, and
then they did Freak Show and Hotel.
Okay,
so they kind of skipped Coven.
And they skipped
the
psychiatric. Asylum.
Yeah, the asylum. But I was in the hotel and I'm in a room with it's just a bed, and then like I kid you not, you're in the hotel. It feels like at this point. And a hand, like the mattress splits open and a hand comes out and like that freaky looking zombie thing.
I would have lost my mind.
Pops out and I'm going, man, the Roku Express came out this week. I got all this writing to do. No, I'm not.
I will tell you,
but man, it was terrifying.
That scene, because that's episode 1 when that first happens.
Oh, I jumped.
I lost my mind. I was like, well, that's just crazy talk.
Yeah, it was great. The whole thing, they did there was a Walking Dead
I bet you that was
house.
Good.
The last room you go into, they did it with mannequins and mirrors, but then there's also people too. There was like 100 zombies in the last room you go in, and they're all and like they're moving, but then there's real ones in there, like real people in there too.
That would freak me out,
dude,
more.
And you couldn't see the exit. You kind of had to navigate through it to get out.
Yeah, but you also can't tell which ones are real.
Yeah, that was a scary. That was a scary part.
I would not like. I mean, of course, I would love it, but. Part of me,
it was amazing.
The fear part, would
it was
have been
easily, terrifying. I was, but that's what you go for. I mean, to be scared, I guess.
So, well, yeah, of course.
But I've never been. It was like, I mean, I've been to like up in Pennsylvania. They have like a pretty big like haunted farm thing that they do there. I've been to that, and that's good. This is like a whole nother level because
Disney has deep pockets.
Well, this is Universal.
Oh, I'm sorry, Universal.
But still, they have deep pockets as well.
Right.
Owned by our friends at Comcast.
Oh yeah.
So but they did a fantastic job. There's a Michael Myers house where you go through pretty much every like
the house.
Well, there you start at the house, but then it also goes through like the hospital. So it does like Halloween 2. So it goes through like the hospital.
That would be great.
Yeah, and then like you go into one part through the end, and the house is burning down. Like you're in a burning house, and they did it to where it actually kind of feels like you are.
You feel warm.
You feel warm, and like you see like the light and smoldering of everything, and he's jumping out of ember. It was crazy.
See, I'm no good at those things because like. I always have the thing in my brain that goes, well, what if one of the people that works here
what if it's crazy and it's like a real horror movie?
So
but that could happen anywhere.
And well, of course. And this is so I'm no good anywhere is really what you're saying, which I agree with. So.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, the whole thing was great, and the Exorcist house. There's a
Oh, that would be great. That's one of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah. Well, Reagan was everywhere in that place, and like they got. I don't know how they did it, but there was like 10 Reagans all over, and there were 10 girls that all looked like Reagan, and they all looked the same. Like you couldn't tell.
Right.
It had to be different girls, of course.
Sure.
But, but you go through you're walking through this hallway, and it's like a normal house hallway, and then all of a sudden, the right wall just becomes transparent, and then there's demons and fire and music, and you're just like, how'd that happen? Yeah. It's great. They did a great job.
So
the whole time I'm thinking about the Roku Express and Premiere and Ultra, but they did a good job.
So Anne went to Georgetown. Quick Exorcist aside. she went to Georgetown, which is where The Exorcist was filmed and set.
Yeah, and the steps are there.
And
you
the
can
steps
go,
are there.
You can see the steps where the priest...
I think that's the Wilson. You come across the Wilson Bridge from Northern Virginia over to D.C., and you go to Georgetown. You can see the steps. And they used to screen The Exorcist every year.
Oh, cool.
For the students. And the students, because they're seeing the campus, right? They laugh. Like, it's not scary to people at Georgetown, right?
Oh, really?
They think it's fun. See, but they love it.
My parents are very Catholic, and they walked out of the theater in that movie. They were I can't handle it.
I'm not superstitious, and I'm not, like, super religious or whatever, but I don't tempt fate.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Like, I'm freaked out enough by it to where I'm like, yeah, gonna walk away if I see someone spitting pea soup.
Yeah. Well, that's one part actually in the
Do you wear like a Gallagher bib?
No. But she does like the thing. It's the scene, and she goes to open her mouth, and then you kind of get wet. It's water spray.
So much more pleasant than the actual movie,
right?
Although Universal Studio water might not be that pleasant.
Probably
either.
not. Well, you go to one room and the priest has got here's the best part of it was you go in, and this isn't a real Reagan, but it's like a mannequin, and it's like levitating, and there's a priest, and he's got his hand up perfectly still. And the scariest part about the whole experience is they're piping in audio. So if somebody comes out and like swings a knife at you, you hear like the whoosh,
the swish
from the audio that's being piped in. That's what gets you. Yeah. And so you walk in, and the priest has his hand, but it's up, like he's perfectly still. So you're thinking that, okay, you see Reagan, that's a mannequin. Okay, this is a contrived scene. And, the power of Christ compels you is being screamed and piped in.
Right.
You walk through, all of a sudden the priest turns to me and goes, "Run!" It was a real person. So scared the bejesus out of me.
So when I was, Ann and I were engaged. We were not married yet. We went to one of those haunted, like forest field things, and it was good.
Yeah,
right?
Those are fun.
We're holding hands. We're romantic. We're going through,
blah, blah, blah. Chainsaw.
Yeah, chainsaw guy comes out. I push Ann and I run, and I'm like, she's like, "You coward," and I'm like, "I'm a live goer."
Right. Yeah, you don't have to run faster than the guy with the chainsaw. You just have to run faster than the person you're with.
You have to trip the person you're with. What? No, I didn't say that, Dennis. I didn't say that. Edit that out. Sorry, we were talking about Roku.
Okay, yeah. So the big news is Roku completely revamped their line. Now, I have a Roku 4.
Me too.
And I like it.
Oh, it's real good.
I have heard complaints about the fan noise, and it gets a bit hot.
It does get hot. I've never noticed the noise.
See, neither have I. I haven't had the fan noise issue.
But it is legit.
It does. Hot. It does. You could probably, if you binged watch Stranger Things, you could probably cook a baked potato on it.
Which I'm gonna try now. The challenge to the user or listeners.
Stranger Things and a baked potato. But what the good thing about these new devices is, it's been said that there are no fans. It's all kind of solid state.
Yeah.
So that'll go away for anyone who has that complaint.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's awesome. One, less moving parts.
Yeah.
Less likely
to
break.
Because that's what breaks. Yeah, you get a computer, the spinning hard drive is the thing that's always going to go up. You replace that more than anything else.
I got a new Surface for work, and the biggest complaint we've gotten about the Surfaces as we've looked at them is they get warm.
Oh yeah.
And now they're great, but they do get warm, right? Like it's just whatever second law of thermodynamics.
Yeah, because physics.
Physics.
So what they did is they because you used to have the 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
For Roku, and they basically have like I've broken these into tiers. You have like a low tier, a middle tier, and then like the creme de la creme of Roku.
Yep.
The low tier is called the Express, and the Express, it's kind of cool because it costs $29.99, 30
That's cheap.
$30.
Yeah,
and
that's cheap.
but it's really it's really bare bones.
How's it compare to the 4?
Well, I mean, for processor wise, it's a bit slower, but it'll do. I mean, it has the Roku OS on it.
Okay,
so it'll do
what the 4 does
exactly. Now, what Roku has done is they've introduced 2 new function. Well, not really a new function. They improved the search to where now it can do over 100 channels.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
That's kind of a new function.
Yeah.
But and it's universal search, so it searches across all these 100 apps.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about it is it knows what subscriptions you have. It knows what's free, so it will actually if it finds a show that you're looking for, it'll rank it by price.
That's a really smart ranking system.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Because that's what I would care about when I'm searching for a particular show.
They have this other function that I didn't think I wanted until they told me about it.
Yeah.
Night listening.
Okay. Explain.
Okay. When you're watching a show and everyone's asleep and say it's like an action film?
Yeah.
And it's dialogue, so you turn it up so you can hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden some guy whips out a Tommy gun and starts mowing people down. And it's like, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, oh my God. So you turn it all the way. Oh, no, stop. And you're like turning it down and the the kid starts crying and you're like, oh no. This stops that. Night listening balances out the tracks
peaks of the
right, so it keeps it at an optimal listening level for nighttime.
That's actually awesome.
Yeah,
because we have a baby,
right?
Which but they might not.
No, I don't think they do.
Well, they might.
Well,
I mentioned it before.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Not it. Him.
No. Did I say it?
No, I said it.
Oh,
I'm his father, right? I shouldn't say it. But yeah, so it does actually I do that all the time. I'm almost always the last one in bed, and so I'm watching whatever I want to watch, which is normally American Horror Story,
right?
What's the other one I love on Cinemax that's new? Walking Dead guy created it.
Oh,
Outcast.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you were talking about. I was trying to think of some Skinemax show.
Oh well, yeah, exactly.
Moment has passed.
Oh, so it just, that would be a really cool feature for me to have.
It would be great. Because what I've been doing is plugging the headphones into the remote.
Sure.
And just my own personal experience, that works. But if it's a husband and wife and you're watching a show together, this is perfect because it'll balance that out. You won't wake the kids. So, and that functions across all these new devices.
Okay.
So, and that's pretty cool. Now, with the Express, it's a bare bones device. It's smaller than the remote, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very tiny. It's maybe, 1.5 2 inches wide and then 3 inches long. Yeah. So, and it's, HDMI cable plugs into the TV. Now for $10 extra, you can get the Express Plus, which is counterintuitive because the Express Plus, while it's more expensive, is really for backwards compatibility. It'll allow you to use those old component cables, the red, white, yellow cables. If you have an older TV, you don't have HDMI, you can use that and you can plug that into your TV.
Yeah, that is counterintuitive.
It is. Well, it's because they expect
I get it.
People to have newer TVs, but if you want an older TV, you're going to have to pay $10 more to get the Express Plus to use the component.
Just the naming convention.
That's what I mean. It's because plus you're like, ooh, plus means better in technology. But okay.
Plus in this case means more expensive.
Plus means more expensive to use old technology.
Yeah. Whatever.
What are you going to do?
At least now people know.
Yeah. So you're going to get 39, and that'll do, your standard 480i, standard definition where, it's the other, both can do up to 1080p too. So
nice.
Good to go. Now, the next tier up, I just want to make sure, did I cover that? Yeah. Oh, yeah, the networking. If you want to do wireless, it does N, won't do AC, either device.
Okay.
So, Wi-Fi goes up to 802.11n, which is the standard for wireless.
You just lost half of our audience.
I know. I don't know why I even said that. Okay, so the next tier up is the Premier. The Premier is, And you're probably asking, like, I would say, like, the Express is kind of like, it's got a little flavor of the Roku One because it can use the Express Plus does the whole cabling thing.
Right.
But, like, the sweet spot there, it has a little bit of the two because they kind of bleed into one another because it's really not a 1-for-1 anymore.
Yeah.
You know, the middle tier, the premier tier, kind of takes a little bit of function from the 3 and the 2.
Okay.
And kind of puts it together. Now, you do get, with the Premiere, both devices also, they support 802.11 AC, which is, and with MIMO, dual band wireless. What's cool about MIMO, and I'm going to tell you guys, even though if you don't want to hear it, because it's kind of nerdy, it allows you to...
You can't see it, but I'm giving Dennis a look.
I know, yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
So what the MIMO will do is if you're on a device and the router with 802.11 AC, it's more efficient because it kind of almost locks you in.
Yeah.
And it'll follow you kind of around the house. It targets. The beam kind of targets more.
Yeah, it's point to point.
It's still a wave, and but it just kind of it maintains better connection, and more speed. So. I prefer AC. I mean, I can get in my house, like 200 MIPS inside the network on AC.
That's nice.
Yeah, for wireless, it's pretty amazing. Now, both this and the Express, they have an IR receiver, so you can use a universal remote if you want to use a universal remote. They both have Dolby Audio pass-through with an HDMI cable.
Right.
The Premieres come with a micro SD card. That is only for channel expansion, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, what would you actually use that
That's
for?
what it's for. It's if you want to, I've put tons of channels on my Roku, and it hasn't yelled at me yet. So
you got to really work at it.
Yeah, you do.
But, I mean, it's there if someone wants it.
Yeah. Now, the thing is that I didn't mention about the Express is there's no Ethernet jack. Yeah, and there's no jack on either the Express or the Express Plus. The Premiere doesn't have it either. The Premiere Plus does. So really, that's when you start to get into, the differences between the Premiere and the Premiere Plus is you can wire that thing up.
Yeah.
Which I prefer because it's easier to troubleshoot.
Yep. You
don't have to worry about, your Wi-Fi signal or anything like that. You also get into 4K video with the Premiere Plus. And the big benefit with Premiere Plus is HDR. Now, HDR, like everyone, 4K video or UHD, everyone was there was like a lot of buzz about that like a couple months ago. I've watched it and I can't tell the difference between 1080p and 4K resolution. I mean, it's unless it's like right next to one another.
I will tell you, just a side note, back in the day, this is a while back, when we got our first HD TV. I was amazed. I thought it was great, right?
Yeah, it's great.
But I remember watching, it's big screen, watching football back in the day. And they zoomed in on the pile, and all of a sudden, I'm seeing the arm hair, like armpit hair of this offensive lineman, and I'm like, it was okay when they were a little squiggly.
Yeah,
I didn't need to see this sweaty armpit that well.
No, and that did that. But, once you get, and that was just with 720.
Yeah, that's regular old HD.
All right, yeah, you get to that 1080p, and now 4K, and I'm like, okay.
And to a certain point where my eyes... I wear glasses. My eyes aren't that good anyways.
Yeah. But what does matter is HDR, which is high dynamic range. Now, there's been actual studies done where, let me go into that. Let me go into what that actually is first. Basically, it'll give you better color accuracy, meaning it'll give you more real world color and better contrast ratios. It makes the bright parts of an image brighter, so it kind of pops and gives you more depth, and there's more steps in between the contrasts.
Well, that reminds me, like back in the old days when we used to talk about VGA computers, And the big difference I remember with the VGAs, and I was young, because that was a long time ago, was the color palette.
Yep.
Right, you could really distinguish between.
Yeah, and that's kind of what this does, because it increases. They call it the new term is the wide color gamut, which can actually show colors on televisions that have like really never been able to be seen before. Yeah. Like the color of an eggplant was not really a color you could see on TV.
Yep.
Now you can with this
odd purple.
Right.
It's just difficult.
Exactly. So you have more colors. You have, better image depth. HDR, because people are confusing HDR as like a new standard. Like people usually, because I'll throw like 720 or 1080p or 4K, and they're thinking HDR is a replacement. It's not. It's kind of a different thing altogether. Where HDR, or rather, where the resolution is how many pixels you get. The HDR is how good are those pixels.
Yeah, it's the quality of the pixel.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
So, and studies have been done, and when they take people and put them in a room, and they'll show them 4K video without HDR, and then they show them like 1080p with HDR, the 1080p wins out.
Yeah.
Like, so it's better to have HDR than it is to have a higher resolution.
Well, the human eye, I'm not going to get too into biology because I left my biology degree at home, but the human eye is really, really good at distinguishing color.
Right. And that's what this is. This will give you that like real world experience.
Right.
So what do you need to take advantage of HDR? You need HDR TV, HDR content. If you're going to get a Roku, you want to get the Premium Plus, because that's the one that allows you to see HDR.
And again, that's the medium, right? We're going small, medium, large.
Right.
That's the medium.
Well, it's the medium. You have the Premiere and then the Premiere Plus. There's actually two. There's two low grade Express. There's two mediums too.
There's a small A and a small B.
Right. And the Premiere costs $79. The Premiere Plus is $99. So, and basically the real difference is, to recap real quick, you get a micro SD card with the Premiere Plus. You don't get that. I'm sorry. You don't get that with the Premiere. You get Ethernet connection with the Premiere Plus. You get HDR video with the Premiere Plus. You get the private listening in the remote, because you get that advanced point anywhere remote.
Yep.
You get the headphone jack with the Premiere Plus. You don't get that remote with the Premiere. That's actually, I think that's really the value point, is probably the Premiere Plus.
Yeah.
Because I love that remote where you can plug the headphone jack into and just like sit down. Oh, it's great. So you can do the private listening. Those are the big differences between those two in the middle tier. Now, when you move up one more step to the Ultra, which is the highest tier, it's pretty much everything we've discussed thus far, which I know has been a lot, because, I had to go into what HDR video is in the Premiere Plus and all the different features. And I know a lot of people, because what I wanted to know is what's the translation table between, my Roku 3 and this new stuff.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't translate 1-to-1. It's kind of just a new set of features. And I will, in the show notes, I have an article or a blog post that I wrote that really covers all of this and the differences between all the devices. So you can bring that up and look back to it. But to get into the Ultra, what you get, the exclusive features, there are a set of exclusive features that you can only get on the Ultra. And one of them is USB storage, because that used to be available in the 3. Now it's only available in the Ultra. It was in the 3 and 4. Now it's only available in the Ultra, which is the high tier. So basically, you can plug in a, external drive and play your media off of it, as long as it's, common format, like, FAT32, NTFS, blah, 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 nerd. Also, it has optical audio. So if you are a bit of an audiophile and you have your own, sound system, or, a separate receiver, you can actually use an audio an optical audio cable and connect it and, have separate sound.
Slick.
Yep. I had that on my Apple TV. I think it's pretty cool, that Roku's bringing it into the
my cousin has an Apple TV and it's amazing.
Right. Because
So
I
that's
was
a nice
an Apple
feature.
Being an Apple person, I had an Apple TV until the Roku 4 came out, and then I tested it and loved it. So
Roku 4 is pretty cool.
yeah, I moved over to it. And they also have the most amazing feature to ever be released on a streaming device if you have children.
And that is
the button on top of the Roku that you press, and then your remote will ping like a sonar submarine.
So we actually bought a entirely separate little thing that you could stick on the back of a remote, and you pinged it just like what you're talking about. The fact that it is built in to the device,
it's awesome.
Well, first of all, why the heck wasn't that done by everyone?
The 4 has it.
I mean, by every manufacturer of remotes.
The worst was
10 years ago.
The Apple TV remote. Okay, it is. That's a sexy remote. The silver one, you know which one? Not the new one with the 4, but the third generation one. It was like that silver.
Yeah, I think
it looked Apple. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like there's one button. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sitting here with my iPhone. I know exactly what you mean by look like Apple.
But it was like 2 centimeters thick and maybe barely an inch wide.
Which means it's going down inside of a couch.
There's 5 Apple TV remotes in my couch. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
And not to mention that it was almost it flew like a shuriken. If you toss that thing, you could injure somebody.
Yeah.
So the fact that Roku is on top of that and put the the ping button on there, it's great.
And I got to tell you, when I was a single guy, this was not a concern.
No.
Now having 3 children and being married, it is a fight every evening about at least once about where the remote is in some sort of panic issue.
I found our Roku remote in my daughter's dollhouse the other day. There's not a TV in her room. I have no idea why it was there.
Well, I have absolutely found remotes. I won't say it's the Roku, but because I don't remember, in shoes, in my shoe.
This goes here.
Well, I mean, again, I have a baby. Yeah. He picks up the remote.
Oh yeah,
puts it someplace.
Yeah, there's all
bets are off.
You have no idea where things are going when you have a baby. So, also on the remote are gaming buttons.
Which, for a lot of our listeners, could be really cool.
Yeah, because you can play, it's like cell phone games, kind of, for the most part.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like how the Wii is, where you can kind of, you tilt it sideways, and you got the, buttons on the side there. Works the same way.
Yeah.
So, those are really the major differences between the Ultra and the other devices. Every other function that we mentioned, the HDR, the 4K video, all that stuff, with the exception of the backwards compatibility for older TVs that you get with the Express Plus.
Yep.
The red, white, yellow cable. Aside from that, all of the other all the other functionality available with the Roku Ultra. So it's like a 4 with a couple added bells and whistles for the most part. And I mean, that's really it when it comes to these devices. What I will say is I kind of like what they've done with this, because 1, 2, 3, 4 is not the best numbering system when your devices offer different functions.
Yeah.
It's like you want to, because you naturally would think that you want the 2 over the 1. But if you have an older TV, you want the 1 because that's the only one that can connect to it. So I think it's good that they've kind of give it a little bit of a naming convention. It'll allow them to add functionality into the older models if they want to later on down the road.
To distinguish. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. If you're going to keep them all in the market, you might as well just give them all an individual name. So,
So I'm going to summarize.
Okay. Yeah, because I think we need to, because there's a lot there and different functions.
And we're sorry if any of this was confusing. It's just, it's not a confusing product set. There's just a lot of other subtopics.
Yeah, it's 5 devices.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the difference between 5 different things. That's hard to do if there were apples, and I'm trying to explain the difference between 5 different apples.
And now we are making excuses for ourselves, so disclaimer on my summary. All right. Ready, 1. It's the Express. The Express is a good basic device. Costs about $30, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, it does most of what you need. You move, let's say, laterally, if you have an older television.
Correct.
To the Express Plus.
There you go.
Which will cost you an extra $10.
To use the old TV.
So it's basically a little bit of a penalty cost for having older technology.
One thing people ask, though, why should I buy a streaming stick if the Express is only $30? Which is a good point, and I'll say the Roku streaming stick that they released in April has a bit more oomph than the Express, and I think it's easier to port because it's really just because the HDMI port is built into the stick,
right?
Where in the Express you need a cable. So if you're looking for a device that you're going to pop out of a TV and plug into another, or you're going to, take it traveling into different hotels, I would go with the streaming stick over the Express.
Sure.
So that's really, I wanted to mention that because people have asked me that question.
That's totally worthwhile.
Yeah.
Like I would say with that distinction, right? Really, we're talking like the Express is pretty basic, but it's pretty cheap at $30.
$30. I mean, really.
You hop up to 40. Now you're talking the Express Plus. Again, lateral move with the exception of it's backwards compatible to older television technology.
Right.
You then move to, what's the middle tier's name?
Premiere?
The Premiere.
Yeah.
You're starting to get to have a fairly beefy device.
$79.99 for the Premiere.
And it's somewhere in the, if you're familiar with Roku at all, somewhere in between, kind of an amalgamation of the 2 and the 3.
Yep.
You move to the Ultra.
Well, wait, Premiere Plus.
Ooh, Premiere Plus.
That's the value.
I apologize.
Yeah. That's the value device.
Premiere Plus
$99.
is $99. And what was the big distinguisher on it?
Well, with both Premiere boxes, you get the AC, the 82.11 AC Wi-Fi. You get, 1080p. Both do 4K video. Both have the IR receiver for universal remote. Both have night listening mode and all that stuff that we talked about earlier. The real difference with the Plus is you get Ethernet connection,
which
is huge for some.
Yeah. So for me, big deal. Because I like the stability and ease of troubleshooting, as Dennis explained earlier, because Wi-Fi is still a little squirrely from time to time.
Yep. You get the micro SD card if for some reason you installed 1,000 channels on your Roku.
Which someone is doing, or they wouldn't have it.
The big plus, only if you're trying to future-proof yourself, is this is the first device that gives you HDR picture quality. Which is those better colors and the better contrast that makes it look like real life.
Right.
Which, if you ask me, I'd rather have 1080p with the HDR than 4K video.
Yeah. But you don't actually need to choose because both have 4K video.
Correct. But I'm saying if you're going to go out and get a TV, just make sure it has HDR.
So, and then we hop all the way to the Ultra, which is the same as the current Roku 4 in cost.
Yep.
But with all the features we talked about, with the exception of the backwards compatibility to the older television, it also has a USB port on it.
So you can plug in an external hard drive and, watch your own media.
Optical audio.
For you audiophiles out there that have a separate audio receiver.
And there's definitely some out there. And then, I'm trying to remember, it was...
the best device, the best function ever made for any type of streaming device.
Oh, the remote finder?
Yeah.
You
got kids, you need that thing. So that alone is worth, I'd pay $500 for a streaming device. I'm just joking.
Well, I don't know if I'd pay $500. I thought you were going to say $5. I was like, yeah, friends, $5. I'm in.
Yeah, well, yeah. I had friends that actually like took a paint stirrer and like taped it to their Apple TV remote, so just to make it bigger, so it would fall into the couch. But I mean, the remote finder is awesome.
It's actually a pretty simple way to solve it. That's not bad.
Yeah, it works.
It's not pretty.
Yeah, no,
but
not at
it's
all.
big.
Not at all. And then, the gaming buttons for,
for people who might want to do that.
A little bit of a benefit.
Yeah, I mean,
the real value there is the voice remote and the button.
Yeah.
and it's got some oomph to it. The Ultra is gonna have a bit of, a little bit more processing power.
Yeah, which is always nice.
Yeah. But I mean, really, that kind of sums up the differences between those devices. Now, I will say, if you have a Roku and you're happy with it, there's no reason to go out and buy these. I would just, stay with what you have.
Yeah.
If you want the HDR, then you'd probably want to go into like the Premiere Plus. Or if you want, the functionality that the Ultra offers, go ahead and grab it. But, I really don't think there's a reason to rush out and buy any of these devices unless you're looking for specific functionality.
Yeah, I would say for new people to Roku, this is a cool opportunity.
Oh, yeah,
there's
definitely.
A lot of differential, options, right? Like, you really get to choose what it is you want. For those of us that have already gone in and bought, like, a Roku 4, like the two of us, the Roku 4 is pretty awesome.
Pretty good. HDR is really the only benefit to pulling up a new device.
I'll probably sit for a little while.
I don't have an HDR TV yet, so...
Yeah.
Not going to help me.
I'm in the same boat. So, not a knock on the devices. They sound great.
They're awesome, but I just don't want people... Because, sometimes you say things and it's like, I have to go buy the new thing. You don't have to go buy the new thing.
And if we're anything here, it's a value proposition thing. We're not really... Like, both of us like new technology.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong.
But, that's if I have infinite funds, which I do not.
Nope.
So...
And sometimes it's nice to just go out and have a nice steak dinner.
Yeah, because I mean, it's if it comes down to getting the remote finder eating, I'm pudgy. I like my eating. So,
okay, so I guess that'll bring this episode to a close. I'm Dennis Restaro.
And this is Joel Reeves.
And I don't have a movie quote this week, so we'll see you next time.
Take care.
I'm just kidding. My name is Inigo Montoya. You kill my father, prepare to die. I love that movie. If you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe. And if you would be so kind, if you're liking the podcast, leave a review. It really, really brightens our day, and we might even read it on air. So remember, you can always call us now at the voicemail box if you have a question or a comment, and that number is 650-TALK-GRP. Twitter at Grounded Reason. Email podcast@groundedreason.com, or the Facebook page. Joel and I will see you next week when we'll be talking about the cable boxes I was supposed to tell you guys about. We will see you then.